it is a mess in my garage. But behind me here we've got the DoodleBastard. We're going to discuss some of the parts that just came in for the thing as of today. I've been waiting for this video. I wanted to make this last weekend, but the parts just finally arrived, so let's talk about them. Alright, I had talked before that I had to change out the sprockets. This is a stock 15-tooth sprocket. This is a 17 that I used to have on the mini chopper that I formerly had. And this is the 18. This is a part that people have told me does not exist. So, holding this in my hand, that's right my friends, this is a unicorn. Look, this is the stock 15-tooth sprocket that came off of that motor that even wasn't right on the mini chopper that I had previously. When I replaced the mini chopper with a 17-tooth sprocket, it certainly worked much better than before, and I got speeds of about 80 miles an hour on the thing, whereas before it was flat out at like 50 miles an hour. It just didn't have a high enough drive to be able to push that thing up to speed. The motor would just get winded way quickly. So I went ahead and upgraded to a 17, and that chopper rode pretty good. The DoodleBastard, however, has a much smaller wheel, and it also has a much smaller rear sprocket. So I had to do some math. The mini chopper's wheel was 20 inches, roughly 20 and a half. This got a wheel of about 12 and a half inches. So there's some math that had to go into that. The rear sprocket, I believe, on the mini chopper was like a 36. This is a 26. The front, of course, was a 15, so the math turned out that I needed an 18 sprocket to drive this thing at the same speed, same top end, and have the same performance that I had before. So anyway, I was a little concerned that this 18-tooth sprocket wouldn't fit on this motor, but to my surprise, it looks like it's barely going to clear the engine cover here. So I think the 18 is going to be just fine. I was told the 18 does not exist because an 18 does not fit. That would be false. You're looking at it right there. Not only does it exist, but it fits. I did have one little problem with this sprocket, though, and I don't know who the ding-dong was that made it. Maybe I should say the ching-chong, but that would be racist, so we're not going to say that. But the splines that are inside of here, there's 6 of them, and there's a measurement on these. Each tooth is supposed to be smaller than each gap. And I forget what the measurement is, but there's like a 2mm difference. Well, whoever the ding-dong was that made this, made the teeth wider than the gap. The opposite of what was necessary on here. But they sent it with a sprocket keeper that was the right size. So the sprocket keeper fit just fine, but the sprocket did not. So anyway, I had to get in there with a Dremel and do just, you know, grind a little millimeter off of each tooth, which went ahead and widened the gap to what it was supposed to be and thinned out the teeth. And as you saw, it slips right on here now without any problem. Then the keeper, of course, goes on in front of that. And then I drive the bolts into it, and it should be good to go. And next on the list, we've got the starter sprag. Now, for those of you who don't know what a sprag is kind of like a ratchet. And unlike a ratchet, it doesn't tick. But the starter drives this gear. The flywheel attaches to it, and of course it slides over the crankshaft. So when your starter turns, this gear will turn, which makes your motor turn. Of course, then the motor starts. But once the motor starts, that starter has to stop turning. So what happens is this will stay in place while the gear turns. That's how this works. But when the starter is driving it, and this is a bad example because this thing is all worn out, but it only turns in one, there it goes, it just grabbed. Turns in one direction only, but if you turn in the other direction, it freewheels. So that's the concept. While the motor is running, that gear can stay stationary without the starter driving. Okay, now this one is assembled backwards, so it's actually going to work in the reverse that the new piece does. Now this is the new updated starter sprag, and the problem I had on the old one was these 3 bearings here, they would wear out. I mean, the thing would start maybe, well, I don't know, 3-4 times, and eventually it would just start spinning, and you could hear the metal grinding on metal. Kind of like kind of sound. So anyways, this one has 3 contact points, and the new one has 20. I mean, it's very, very obvious as to which one is going to be the better piece. Now, these came out about a year or 2 after this motor had come out, and I had found it online just by accident when I was looking for a new Spragg. I found one that just didn't look the same. There is no part number to transfer between these two because it's all Chinese stuff. It actually goes by measurement, by the number of teeth that is on it, by the bolt hole spacing, and by the hole size that goes over the shaft. They don't measure them by thickness, even though they actually are the same. They are identical. But the great thing is that this sucker plugs right into place. There it is. Everything meshes just fine, and it's going to work just fine. So I'm going to get this thing hooked up. We're going to have that fresh starter sprag in there. We're going to fill it up with some oil, get a chain on it, and hopefully we get it started up soon. Oh, there's also the new carburetor I put on there. I grabbed an air filter for that just the same. Hopefully it's jetted properly. I doubt it. I'm sure I'm going to have to play with it some, but that's not too hard. But in a nutshell, those are the engine parts that we needed to get this thing together. Shortly I'll get the wheel mounted on it, get the chain hooked up, and throw a battery on here and see if we can get the wiring sorted out and make this thing run. After that, we'll have a breakdown, tear it all down, get everything all repainted, and put this thing together finally once and for all, and take it for a test ride.